A hospital's private consultation room. The light is warm but subdued, a stark contrast to the cold reality that seems to cling to every corner. YN and Jungkook sit side by side in stiff chairs, their hands tightly intertwined. They'd come to this office with the hope of simple answers, perhaps a minor illness that would explain their son Jungsu's recent fatigue and lack of appetite. But they could never have prepared for the gravity of what was to come. The door opens softly, and Dr. Kim steps inside, his white coat pristine, but his expression is worn with the weight of difficult news. He sits across from them, his hands clasped over a thick folder with Jungsu's name on it, as if preparing to shield them from what it contains. YN's heart is pounding, she's holding onto Jungkook's hand like a lifeline, and he's holding her just as tightly. Doctor. Pausing, a heavy sigh escaping, thank you both for coming in today. I know this has been a difficult time for your family, and I wish I had better news. YN's breath catches, and she feels her grip on Jungkook's hand tighten, almost painfully. The doctor's words seem to hang in the air, slowly wrapping around them like a suffocating fog. Doctor. Measured, empathetic Jungsu has been diagnosed with Wilms tumor. It's a rare and aggressive form of kidney cancer, most commonly found in children his age. Unfortunately, in Jungsu's case, the tumor is advanced, and we'll need to act quickly. YN's mind spins, her mouth dry as she tries to grasp the enormity of what the doctor is saying. Her son, her precious boy who only weeks ago was laughing and running through the park, now faced something terrifying, something she could never have anticipated. She feels a tear slip down her cheek but doesn't have the strength to wipe it away. Jungkook. Voice low, barely containing his own fear. Doctor, what does this mean for him? What are his chances? The doctor shifts in his seat, his voice gentle but firm. Doctor. Wilms' tumor is treatable with surgery and chemotherapy, but in Jungsu's case, we'll need a kidney transplant. This type of cancer often leaves the affected kidney too damaged to function, and removing the tumor would mean removing the kidney. The room falls into a silence so thick it's almost palpable. Jungkook can feel the pressure of the doctor's words pressing down on him, each one a weight that lands heavily in his chest. He swallows, his throat dry, and glances at YN, who is staring at the doctor with wide, unblinking eyes. YN. Voice trembling, a transplant, is there no other way? Can't you try something else before we go down that route? Doctor. Gently shaking his head, I understand how difficult this is to hear. We would consider alternatives if they were viable, but a transplant is the most effective course of action for Jungsu. Without it, his chances of survival are very slim. Jungkook feels his own heartbeat pounding in his ears, the weight of the doctor's words settling into his bones. He feels the urge to protect, to shield his family, and the helplessness of not being able to. He remembers the way Jungsu looked up at him with such trust in his eyes that morning, and the thought of losing him is unbearable. Doctor. I know this is overwhelming, but we'll do everything in our power to help you through this. Finding a matching kidney is our top priority, and we'll start testing family members immediately. YN's hand goes to her mouth as she fights to keep from sobbing, her heart breaking at the thought of her little boy undergoing something so terrifying. Jungkook feels her lean into him, and he instinctively wraps his arm around her shoulders, trying to comfort her while his own heart feels like it's being shattered. Jungkook. Determined, though his voice cracks, we'll do anything. Test us first, whatever you need. We won't let him go through this alone. The doctor nods solemnly, his eyes filled with sympathy and understanding. Doctor. I'll have our team coordinate with you both to begin the testing immediately. Sometimes, close relatives can provide the best match, so that's where we'll start. I know how terrifying this must be, but Jungsu will need both of you to be strong for him. The words barely reach YN as she sits numbly, replaying the doctor's diagnosis over and over in her mind, each repetition making it feel more real and more painful. She can't imagine a life without Jungsu's laughter, without the little quirks and gestures that made him the heart of their family. Jungkook leans closer, his lips brushing against YN's forehead as he whispers softly. Jungkook. We'll fight this, YN. Whatever it takes, we'll be right here with him. We're not going to give up. YN nods slowly, her fingers curling around his arm as she closes her eyes, trying to pull strength from his presence. Her heart feels broken but resilient, a glimmer of hope shining through the pain. She knows the road ahead will be agonizingly difficult, but for Jungsu, for their family, she will do whatever it takes. For the first time, YN allows herself to take a shaky breath. She lets her resolve harden, taking strength from Jungkook's steady presence beside her. Their shared determination fills the room, a silent promise between them that they will do everything in their power to save their son. Jungsu's hospital room. The soft beeping of machines fills the silence. YN sits by Jungsu's bed, her fingers gently brushing through his hair as she watches his small chest rise and fall. Days have passed in a blur of anxious waiting, each one longer and heavier than the last. Jungkook stands by the window, staring out at the hospital courtyard with an exhausted, defeated look in his eyes. Jungkook and YN have already been tested as potential donors, but their hopes were dashed when neither was a match. They've exhausted other options, reaching out to family members, extended friends, and even strangers through a donor registry, but with no success. YN, voice barely above a whisper, her tone heavy with desperation, why can't we find anyone? There must be someone out there willing to help. Her voice trails off, a plea left hanging in the quiet room. She bites her lip to keep her emotions at bay, not wanting to let Jungsu see her tears if he wakes up. Jungkook turns to look at her, his own expression a mixture of pain and frustration. They've both been strong for Jungsu, trying to keep their fear hidden from him, but now the weight of it all feels unbearable. Jungkook, sighing heavily, running a hand through his hair, we'll find someone, YN. We have to, but each day that passes feels like we're running out of time. He crosses the room, kneeling beside her and reaching out to take her hand, squeezing it tightly. Just then, Jungkook's phone buzzes on the table beside him, breaking the tense silence. He glances at the screen, his eyes widening slightly as he sees the caller ID, Rhea. YN looks at him, a glimmer of hope flashing in her eyes as she waits, holding her breath. He answers the call, his voice tense but hopeful. Jungkook. Over the phone, his voice is a mixture of surprise and cautious hope. Rhea. Rhea. Her voice is soft but clear. Hey, Jungkook. I just heard about Jungsu. I'm so sorry, truly. I can't imagine what you're going through. Jungkook's shoulders relax slightly, grateful for her sympathy but bracing himself, knowing that sympathy alone won't save his son. Jungkook. Urgent, his tone almost pleading. Rhea, I appreciate it, but we're out of options. We need a donor. Fast. I wouldn't be calling otherwise, but, he pauses, swallowing his pride, his voice cracking slightly. Jungsu's running out of time. There's a pause on the other end of the line before Rhea speaks again, her tone holding a glimmer of something that makes Jungkook's heart skip. Rhea. Hesitantly, I was tested a while back, just to see if it was possible. I'm a match, Jungkook. Jungkook's face lights up with a surge of hope, a smile breaking through the exhaustion as he shares a quick, grateful glance with YN. She squeezes his hand, feeling a rush of relief mixed with disbelief. Jungkook. Breathless. Rhea, you have no idea what this means, you could save his life. Thank you so much. There's a long pause, and YN's smile begins to fade as she watches Jungkook's expression shift from relief to confusion, sensing that something's not right. Ray's voice returns, softer but holding a firmness that sends a chill down his spine. Rhea, I want to help, Jungkook, but there's something I need in return. Jungkook's face goes pale, his expression hardening as he tries to make sense of her words. He pulls the phone away slightly, exchanging a wary look with YN, who watches him with concern. Her grip on his hand tightens as a sinking feeling settles in her stomach. YN, her voice barely above a whisper. What did she say? Jungkook. Bitterly, she wants something in return. She won't just donate her kidney, there's a price. YN's hand freezes midair as she hears this, her heart sinking. A few days later, a dimly lit, upscale cafe. The soft hum of conversation surrounds YN, Jungkook, and Rhea, but to them, it feels as if they're in their own little world. Rhea sits across from them, her posture impeccable, a serene smile on her lips. YN sits stiffly next to Jungkook, anxiety and confusion swirling in her stomach. Jungkook's hand tightens around his cup, his eyes narrowed with suspicion and worry. He knows that whatever Rhea is about to say is going to be more than just an offer of help. Rhea places her coffee cup down slowly, as if savoring the silence before speaking, enjoying the tension she's created. Her gaze flickers between Jungkook and YN, her smile unwavering, and yet there's something in her eyes, a cold, calculating gleam that doesn't sit right with either of them. She knows exactly what she's doing, and she's in control now. Rhea. With a slight, knowing smirk, I know you've been looking for a donor for Jungsu. And I'm here to help. YN's heart skips a beat. She breathes out a small sigh of relief, grateful that there might finally be a solution. She turns toward Jungkook, her eyes filled with a glimmer of hope. YN, Rhea, are you saying you're a match? You would really. But before she can finish, Rhea holds up her hand, cutting her off. Her demeanor shifts instantly, the friendly facade dropping, replaced by something darker. She leans forward, her voice taking on a colder, more calculated edge. Rhea, interrupting, yes, I'm a match. But there's one condition. Jungkook's expression falters. He can feel the weight of her words, the shift in the air, but he doesn't fully comprehend what's coming next. He shifts in his seat, his eyes narrowing in suspicion as he looks directly at Rhea. Jungkook. What condition? Rhea leans back in her chair, enjoying the effect her words have on both of them. Her smile widens, but it's not the kind of smile that makes anyone feel comforted. It's the kind of smile someone wears when they know they've won, even before the game has started. Rhea, I'll give you my kidney, Jungkook, but only if you marry me. Right now, no hesitation. I want you to marry me, and I'll save Jungsu's life. YN's face drains of color as she stares at Rhea, incredulous. Her heart sinks, and she finds herself almost unable to breathe. This isn't happening. She looks to Jungkook for confirmation, hoping that maybe, just maybe, this is some cruel joke. But Jungkook's face is tight with fury, his jaw clenched as he glares at Rhea, unable to believe what he's hearing. YN. Voice shaking, Rhea, you can't ask him to choose like that. Not for this. This is Jungsu's life, not some bargaining chip. Ray's expression hardens as she crosses her arms, her eyes narrowing, unrelenting. She's been waiting for this moment, and now she relishes the power she holds over them. Her voice drops lower, more venomous. Rhea, coldly, I don't need your approval, YN. This is my decision. I'm the one offering to save your son's life, and this is what I want in return. If you think you can stop me from getting what I want, you're delusional. YN recoils, her face pale with shock. Her hands tremble as she grips the edge of the table, the weight of Ray's words sinking in. She looks at Jungkook desperately, but he remains silent for a moment, his gaze locked on Rhea, struggling to process the ultimatum she's just thrown at him. Jungkook. Voice strained with disbelief, you're actually blackmailing me. You'd use my son's life as leverage to get me to marry you. Ray's lips curl into a smile, though it's devoid of any warmth. She doesn't flinch at his accusation. Instead, she meets his gaze head-on, her eyes gleaming with a quiet, dangerous determination. Rhea, yes, you're right, I'm blackmailing you. I've loved you for years, Jungkook. I've waited for the moment when I could be more than just the best friend you turn to when you need help. I've stood by you while you built a life with her. She gestures dismissively toward YN, and now it's my turn. You've had your chance with her. This is my chance. You'll marry me, and I'll save your son. Take it or leave it. YN feels her heart shatter as she looks at Jungkook, her vision blurring with unshed tears. She can't believe what she's hearing. Rhea, the woman who she thought was her friend, the one who had always seemed so supportive, is now revealing her true nature. YN's voice cracks as she speaks again, her words filled with desperation. YN, tearfully, how could you do this? How could you betray us like this? You're supposed to be his godmother, someone we trust. How can you make such a selfish demand? Ray's eyes flash with a sharpness that cuts through the air between them. She doesn't seem to care about the hurt she's causing. Her voice is clipped, like she's explaining something to a child. Rhea, because, YN, I've been waiting too long. I've given you enough chances to see that I'm the one who's always been there for him. You think you've got a happy little family, but I've always been the one who's been overlooked. I'm done being the second choice. Jungkook's fists tighten, his anger boiling to the surface. He wants to shout, to break something, to make Rhea understand how utterly wrong she is. But instead, he takes a deep breath, trying to steady himself for the decision he knows he has to make. Jungkook. Gritting his teeth, I'll never love you, Rhea. You know that, but you're right about one thing. I have to save my son. I don't have a choice. Ray's smile widens at his words, and she leans back in her chair, satisfied with the outcome. But there's no real warmth in her victory, just the cold satisfaction of a woman who has gotten what she's wanted for years. Rhea. Good, you're finally seeing things my way. You'll marry me, and Jungsu will live. It's a fair trade, don't you think? YN stares at Jungkook, her heart heavy with the realization that their world, their family, is being torn apart by Ray's cruelty. She looks at Jungkook, her voice barely above a whisper. YN. Sobbing quietly, "You don't have to do this, Jungkook. We can find another way. You don't need to marry her. Not like this." Jungkook looks at her, his eyes filled with pain, knowing that there's no other choice if they want to save their son. He turns back to Rhea, his voice low but firm. "Jungkook. Fine, I'll do it, I'll marry you, but don't think for a second that this changes anything between us. After this, I'm done with you." Ray's smile never wavers, a victory already claimed. As she stands, ready to leave, she turns one last time to YN, her eyes gleaming with quiet malice. "Rhea, we'll see about that, Jungkook. We'll see." Jungkook and YN watches as Rhea walks away, her footsteps echoing in the room, knowing that their life, their family's future, has just been irreparably changed by the woman they once called a best friend. As YN sighed and leaned back a little, and looked at Jungkook with mischievous eyes. "In the end I was right, Jungkook." Jungkook nodded and sighed.